Welcome back. Let me start with what the senator had to say there. He said the cuts are wimpy and anemic, and that the national debt is actually one of our greatest issues of national security. He doesn't think you guys are taking this seriously.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with what my dear friend Rand Paul said. I love his conviction and I share it. The national debt is the greatest threat to our national security, and deficits are a serious problem. What I think Rand is missing on this one is the fact that we are quite serious about this. This is the biggest spending cut, Shannon, in more than 30 years. We're going to cut over $1.5 trillion in spending, and it's a big leap forward. The last time we had a spending cut was 3 decades ago, and it was only $800 billion, even adjusted for inflation. This is the biggest spending cut, I think, in the history of government on planet Earth. Now, is it enough? Of course not. But we have a very delicate balance, and we have to start the process. I liken this to an aircraft carrier. You don't turn an aircraft carrier on a dime. It takes a mile of open ocean, and so it took us decades to get into this situation. This is a big step to begin to turn that aircraft carrier. One important point about what he said, it sounds like his biggest objection is the fact that we are extending the debt ceiling. That's a critically important thing to do. We have to do it. We're not going to get any Democrats to assist on that. So to get it through the Senate and make sure we don't crash the U.S. economy and default on our debts for the first time in history, it has to be part of the reconciliation package. And that's why President Trump and all the other Republicans in Congress, House and Senate, understand the necessity of this. Real quick, important point here. It does not mean that we're going to spend more money. We're extending the debt ceiling to show to creditors, the bond markets, the stock market, that the Congress is serious about this. President Trump is dialed in 100%. He is a visionary leader. He does not want to spend more money, and he has the same concern about the national debt that Rand Paul and I do. That's why we're not going to be spending to that level. We're just sending a message to our creditors around the world that we're serious about all of this.
But you know what critics have said in the past, especially when they've been on the conservative side, they've said, you know, when you call up and get an extension of your credit on your Visa or MasterCard or whatever it is, you may say, I'm not intending to spend that money, but I do want my credit level to go up. And the fact is you may become more comfortable with spending money when you have that leeway.
Well, that might be true, but it doesn't apply here because you've got Republicans and fiscally responsible leaders in charge of both chambers of Congress and the White House, of course, as well. You know, Russ Vought is the director of the Office of Management and Budget, long seen as a strict fiscal hawk, as I liken myself to be as well. And Rand Paul is one who has applauded and said great things about Russ Vought's perspective. Russ said about 2 weeks ago that the criticism on fiscal grounds about this bill is profoundly inaccurate. So Russ says this is a historic step forward, as do many other economists. What's really important here, too, to point out, Shannon, is that some of the estimates, for example, by the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, are wildly inaccurate. They're assuming an historically low growth rate in the economy. The elements of the big, beautiful bill, the reason we're so excited is because it will be jet fuel to the U.S. economy. This is going to foster a pro-growth economy again, to get job creators and entrepreneurs and risk takers moving again, expanding their businesses, adding more jobs. Wages will go up. We'll have more manufacturing in the U.S. because of all the policies that we put into this legislation. It's a long time coming. And remember, not theoretical. We did this before. In the first Trump administration, we brought in the greatest economy in the history of the world, not just the U.S., after just those first 2 years. Because we cut taxes and cut regulations, we're doing it again and on steroids this time.
Let me ask you about a couple of things that are going to be tough in the Senate that may change and may impact your ability then to have the votes when this comes back. SALT is one of them, this extension of the amount of state and local taxes people can deduct off of their federal returns. On this issue, Senator Kevin Cramer says this: there's not one Republican in the United States Senate who gives a blank about SALT. Are you worried about that and other changes that you had to cobble together to get this passed in the House, and what, you know, the Senate may do to your big, beautiful bill?
Well, look, Kevin Cramer, good friend, there's a lot of House Republicans who feel the same as well, people from deep red districts in red states. But the reality is in the House that our majority is made up by our members who serve in states like California and New York, Republicans elected in very difficult, close districts there. And they've got to provide some relief for their folks. And so I think we reached a good equilibrium point over more than a year of discussion and negotiation and planning for our big reconciliation bill. We balanced the interest of a very diverse Republican caucus, over 220 members, of course, in the House. And I've encouraged the Senate, my Senate colleagues. I went to their Senate Republican luncheon on Tuesday, and I encouraged them along and reminded them that we're one team here, House and Senate Republicans working together, because we must. We have small margins in both chambers. But I encouraged them to modify the package that we're sending over there as little as possible, because we have to maintain that balance. And it's a very delicate thing, but I think we'll get this job done.
All right, June is going to be a busy month. We'll be watching very closely. Mr. Speaker, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Shannon.